made a gruesome discovery in a tow yard.
Authorities say they were called to an impound lot in Hollywood after someone noticed a foul odor coming from a car.
The woman's body stuffed into a Tesla, left for days or even weeks on the streets of Hollywood.
But Eyewitness News has learned the 2023 Tesla is registered in Hempstead, Texas to multi-platinum artist and musician David Anthony Burke, known professionally as David.
David.
A dead body. That was the first thing police were told when the call came from a Hollywood tow yard. An abandoned Tesla, ordinary on the outside, horror on the inside. The smell of rot leaked from the doors. And when investigators looked closer, they froze. The car was registered to rising singer-songwriter D4vd. But the victim had no link to fame. It was the decomposed body of 15-year-old Celeste Rivas. She had been missing since April 2024. Now she was found, inside a celebrity's car. The shockwave was instant. Fans asked, how could a missing teenager end up in this nightmare? What hidden truths tied Hollywood fame to this crime scene? Picture the bird streets, mansions glowing above Los Angeles hills, a Tesla dragged in by a tow truck, then sealed in crime scene tape. By September 17th to 18th, 2025, the body was confirmed. A tour stop was canceled, and an LAPD homicide inquiry had begun. No longer just whispers, no longer just rumors. This was death, raw and undeniable. This is the chilling story of D4vd's Tesla horror, and the deadly truth finally exposed. It began far from Hollywood. In April 2024, Celeste Rivas, just 15 years old, vanished from Lake Elsinore. One moment she was a teenager in a quiet community. The next, she was simply gone. The report went in fast. A full missing person investigation was opened, but real progress never came. Flyers went up. Volunteers searched streets and hills. Family begged for help in press conferences. Still, no trace of the girl. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into long, unbearable months. Her family's pain only deepened. Her mother said she barely slept, waiting for any news. Her father's voice cracked every time he faced the cameras. They clung to hope that maybe she had run away, that maybe she'd be found safe. But deep inside, they feared the worst. By summer, her case slipped further from headlines. New stories pushed hers aside. But for those who loved her, the search never stopped. They knocked on doors. They chased rumors. They begged strangers for any lead. Every ringing phone carried a jolt of dread. Would this be the call, or just another cruel silence? Then came a chilling twist, because while her family searched in desperation, her body was moving on a different path. Locked inside a Tesla, abandoned in Los Angeles, and rotting in the shadows of the bird streets. What began as a small-town disappearance was about to collide with a celebrity's car. The world would soon ask, how did this missing girl's path end inside a Tesla months later? It started as something ordinary, a Tesla sitting deserted on the streets of the bird streets, one of Los Angeles' wealthiest neighborhoods. No driver, no movement, just a silent, gleaming car parked where it didn't belong. By early September 2025, the decision was made. Tow trucks rolled in. The vehicle was hooked, lifted, and dragged into a Hollywood tow yard. At first, it was routine. Another impound, another fine. The kind of story no one notices, but the paperwork revealed something that raised eyebrows. The car's registration tied it directly to D4vd, a rising artist with millions of streams, a voice breaking into global charts. Why was his Tesla abandoned in one of LA's richest streets? Still, no one thought much more, until the workers approached the car more closely. That's when the atmosphere shifted. Something was wrong. The smell hit first. Sharp, foul, unmistakable. This was no normal impound. The Tesla wasn't just abandoned, it was hiding something inside. The workers made one call, and that call would turn a simple tow yard into the center of a nightmare. Because what was waiting inside the car was not lost property. It was a human remains, a secret rotting in silence. And soon, investigators would confirm the victim's identity. The world would learn this was not just a forgotten Tesla. It was a moving coffin tied to the name of a rising star. But what exactly did the tow yard workers discover when they opened those doors? The odor was impossible to miss. On September 8, 2025, tow yard workers circled the abandoned Tesla. The closer they got, the heavier the stench of decay became. One employee gagged, another froze in place. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. They made a quick call to the LAPD. When officers arrived, the routine impound turned into a crime scene. The doors were forced open. Inside, the air was suffocating. And then came the sight no one expected. A body partially decomposed, sealed in a bag, hidden inside the Tesla. The silence shattered into instant chaos. Officers shouting, slash radios crackling, slash tape going up around the yard. No one could deny it now. This wasn't an abandoned vehicle. It was evidence of a homicide. The workers who first smelled the rot stood in shock, realizing they had stumbled into a nightmare. Within minutes, detectives swarmed the scene, gloves on, slash cameras flashing, evidence markers laid down. The registration tied the car back to rising artist D4vd, a name suddenly entangled in tragedy. Reporters caught wind within hours. Headlines screamed about a body in a celebrity's car. For the LAPD, this was no longer a missing persons case. It was now treated as a full homicide suspicion. The horror was undeniable. But the biggest question remained unanswered. Who was the victim sealed inside the Tesla? For over a week, the body found in the Tesla carried no name. Detectives worked in silence, waiting for the tests. Then, on September 17th to 18th, 2025, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner gave the answer. The decomposed remains were confirmed as Celeste Rivas. The missing 15-year-old, gone since April 2024, had finally been found, but not alive, not safe. Her story ended inside a celebrity's car.
I'm taking a pause. If the police or any news bulletins come out talking about, we found a body in the back seat or in the trunk of a vehicle that's registered in your name, I'm stopping all musical endeavors in that exact moment, and I'm getting to the bottom of this, because first of all, my name being put out crazy. Number two, what the f I gotta do with this? Number three, who put a body in my trunk? But he's still touring like everything all good. I'm like, nigga, go home.
The match was undeniable. Dental records, slash DNA analysis, slash case file comparisons, all pointed to one truth. The family's year-long nightmare had become a grim reality. Tears turned into quiet mourning. The search was over, but the pain was just beginning. Outside the examiner's office, relatives clutched each other, whispering prayers. Their daughter, their sister, their child, reduced to a case number. For investigators, the focus tightened. This was no longer just an abandoned Tesla. It was now linked to a homicide involving a minor. Detectives retraced steps. Where had the car been parked? Who had access? What timeline led from Lake Elsinore in 2024 to Hollywood Hills in 2025? And most crucially, how did the vehicle's registration tie to D4vd, one of music's rising stars? Every headline carried his name now. Every broadcast flashed his image. From fans, questions poured in. Could a young musician really be connected to this horror? Or was his car just the silent carrier of someone else's crime? The storm had just begun, and it was about to pull D4d directly into its eye. The Tesla wasn't just another abandoned car. The plates traced back to David Anthony Burke, known worldwide as D4vd, a rising star, millions of streams, chart-topping singles like Here With Me, a global tour already in motion. At only 19, he was seen as the future of a new sound. But now his name was attached to a decomposed body. The shock was immediate. Fans flooded social media, asking if the headlines could be real. How could a young musician, barely past his teens, be linked to this kind of horror? For detectives, the facts were clear. The car was his. The victim was inside it. But then came the official statement. The LAPD stressed D4vd himself was not a suspect. No evidence tied him to the death. The registration connected the Tesla, not the artist. Still, the damage was done. His image, once built on youth and promise, was now tied to police tape. Every venue on his tour faced questions. Every sponsor reconsidered their contracts. The media drew their own battle lines, some calling it a coincidence, others whispering cover-up. Behind the scenes, detectives weren't finished. They wanted to know who had last driven the Tesla, who had access to the keys, who placed a missing girl's body in the trunk of a rising star's car. So even while stressing he wasn't implicated, the investigation pressed closer. And soon, it turned toward his own home. Because if D4d wasn't involved, why did detectives still raid his residence? In late September, the quiet streets of the Hollywood Hills erupted. The LAPD arrived with a signed search warrant. Their target, the residence where rising star D4vd had been staying. What followed was no ordinary knock at the door. This was a full-scale operation. Detectives in jackets, forensics vans parked outside, evidence bags carried in and out. The media swarmed within minutes. Camera crews lined the street, flashing lights across manicured lawns. Neighbors peered through windows, stunned at the sudden spectacle. Whispers spread. Had the young musician just been implicated? Inside every drawer, every device, every surface was checked. Forensic teams gathered computers, searched for DNA traces, and photographed every room. The pressure was suffocating. Fans online demanded answers. Some defended him, saying the car was only a coincidence. Others accused him of hiding something darker. But after hours of searching, the result was clear. No charges, no arrest. The raid left a trail of unanswered questions instead of closure. Still, the damage was real. The young artist's name was now tied to words like murder, body, and crime scene. And while investigators combed through evidence, his career balance teetered on the edge. For those close to him, the response had to be fast. There was a tour on the line, a reputation under fire, and a public desperate for clarity. So how did his team respond as the spotlight of suspicion closed in around him? On September 17th, 2025, the news broke. The Seattle show was canceled. Fans holding tickets were told to go home. No music, /no lights, /no stage. The official statement insisted the tour would continue, but the truth was already clear. The crisis had bled into the heart of his career. What should have been headlines about songs and charts were now stories about crime scenes and police raids. Every outlet carried the same images. The Tesla behind tape, detectives at his doorstep. The name D4vd was no longer just tied to music. It was tied to a decomposed body in a luxury car. For fans, the mood shifted fast. Some begged for answers. Others demanded he cancel the entire tour. Behind the scenes, his management team scrambled. Lawyers spoke for him, stressing his cooperation. But the artist himself stayed completely silent. No posts, no interviews, /no words. That silence became its own noise. The absence of a statement made the questions even louder. Was he hiding the truth, or simply protecting himself while the storm raged? Every day, the pressure mounted. Detectives combed through timelines. Media dissected every detail of his past moves. And fans worldwide asked the same haunting question. How did the path of a missing girl end inside the Tesla of one of music's fastest rising stars? The tour was breaking apart. The spotlight was darker than ever. And the stage was set for the deadly truth at the center of it all. The confirmation hit like a hammer. The body inside the Tesla was Celeste Rivas, a 15-year-old missing since April 2024, now reduced to a decomposed corpse in a celebrity's car. The Los Angeles County Examiner signed off the ID. The family's hope ended in an instant. The cause of death still listed as deferred. But detectives made one thing clear. This was no accident. It would be treated as a homicide. Behind sealed doors, the investigation dug deeper. How did a missing child from Lake Elsinore end up in the back of a rising star's Tesla? No timeline fit, no easy answers appeared, and the silence from the artist only fueled speculation. The hidden secret was chilling. It was never about proving D4vd's guilt. It was about the mystery of how fame, tragedy, and crime merged inside one abandoned car. Detectives called it a moving crime scene. Journalists called it a nightmare. Fans called it impossible, until the pictures proved it was real. Every headline now carried the same weight. A missing teenager, a famous musician, and a city trapped between stardom and scandal. Each new report pulled the case further into the spotlight. Each unanswered question left the world on edge. The deadly truth was simple. The lines between music and murder, fame and fear, luxury and loss, were thinner than anyone wanted to believe. And that left the world asking one final question. What does this reveal about the razor-thin line between stardom and scandal? The Tesla horror is no longer a whisper. It is a confirmed homicide probe. What began as an abandoned car in the Bird Streets is now the center of a deadly investigation. The ultimate realization is clear. This isn't rumor. This is fact. The rising star, once known only for music, now stands in the shadow of a crime scene. Every chart, every tour, every song is now tied to the image of a decomposed body in his vehicle. The twist in perspective is brutal. Fame doesn't shield anyone from the truth. Not the young artist, not the industry around him, and certainly not the grieving family left behind. At the emotional high point, three worlds collide. A teenager's stolen life, a celebrity's stained car, and a family's bottomless grief. This is where tragedy meets spotlight. This is where dreams crash into nightmares. And this is where the deadly truth stands exposed. Echoing the hook, The case proves one thing. No one escapes the reckoning. When dreams and nightmares collide, who truly pays the real price? From a missing girl in Lake Elsinore to a decomposed body in a Hollywood Tesla, the journey has shaken not just music, but an entire audience watching in disbelief. We trace the desperate search, the abandoned car, the horrific discovery, the Hollywood Hills raid, and finally the deadly truth now exposed. Every step revealed how thin the line is between fame and fear, between dreams of the stage and nightmares of the grave. This story is not over, because every question still unanswered points to something deeper. Subscribe now for more investigations that expose the hidden stories behind the headlines. And tell us, do you believe this case will uncover a darker conspiracy waiting to be revealed? Or will it end as nothing more than a tragic coincidence?